make sense to us. It may not be able to visualize. You know what? It may not even feel good to do it. That's how we got to be where we are today, my brothers and sisters. Because some folks just did what God told them to do, and they saw it through. Because if they didn't, you know what? We'd still be slaves. Amen. We would still be slaves. I concentrate on black people, Negroes, coloreds, African Americans, whatever we want to call ourselves, because that's what I am, and that's what I studied. But there were some white people, some Caucasians, that helped us because they went against what they saw, what they understood, and what felt right to them as far as society was concerned. Because if that was not the case, we would still be. Now, we're still slaves to some of the sins that we commit every day. We are. And there's always going to be a bit of slavery in all of us. But we have to be able to see it through. We have to be able to do like Elijah. No matter what is being spoken in our head, no matter what looks good, sounds good, no matter how people are encouraging us, if God is telling us to see this thing through, see it through. That's what the slaves did. That's what the civil rights people did. And that's what we have to do. Barack Obama, our president of the United States, if you know a little bit of his story, you know that he really didn't decide he was going to be president until 2 years. It was time for him to run for president. And all those good, well-meaning black folks, the ones that was in the know, that was already in politics, and you too young, you just getting in this. The folks don't know you. Wait your turn. Right. He went to get their advice, and that was their advice. Like, they don't know a God that delivered us out of slavery, that took us to the civil rights time, that if all people had waited their turn, waited for somebody to give it to them, where would we be? They told him to wait his turn. And they said some really nasty things about him. But guess what? He's the president of the United States. So that's why I wanted to talk about Elijah and Elijah, but especially Elijah. I brought some things this morning. I said the sermon was going to be a little different today. I was going to do a homily, and that's what that was. Then I was going to share. And I'm hoping that some of our seniors will share also, because I've talked to some of them, and I know some of their stories just in passing. Some of you have been in my house, and you know that I have a library, books of oxygentation stuff, and this is on my shelf, 100 amazing facts of the African presence in the Bible. Now, we've all through it, but this is the one that they can substantiate, because otherwise they try to fight us from everything else, but this is the stuff they couldn't dispute. We have been telling stories to our children for years. And I was walking down the street in Eastern Market one day and saw a man selling some books. This book was copyrighted in 1990. Selling some books on the street. And I'm going to show you these pictures. I don't know how well you can see this. This is Cinderella. Come stand with this secretary. From a black perspective. Sleeping Beauty from a black perspective. Little Red Riding Hood from a black colored Negro, whatever y'all want to use. Perspective. Afro-Tina and the Three Bears. What's her name? Sleeping Beauty in that? Goldilocks. Yeah. So this is Afro-Tina and the Three Bears. And this is Rapunzel. Stories all illustrated. I remember coming up and not really seeing any books with people who look like me. I bought these on the street. You know why I bought these on the street? Because he was having a hard time selling these in the store. My mom's sitting back there. She can tell you, well, I can't even remember when this was, but I know I think I was still in college, and we were walking around. My sister had started collecting angels because she got into a car accident. You can sit, hold that. She got into a car accident. She had an angel hanging from her rearview mirror, and the angel, never used to call it a baby with a butterfly on her back, broke. And it broke because a dump truck cut her off, hit her in her little Pinto, and she survived. Just from scratches on the car. Big dump truck hit her full. So I was looking for another angel to place the one. And we went through all the stores. My mother said to me, all these angels, you can't pick one? And I said, wow, I'm looking for a black angel, because black children need to know that black folks go to heaven too. a documentary on Unchained Memories. This is Eyes on the Prize, the 3 CDs on the civil rights years. These are the powerful days, the civil rights photography of Charles Moore, some of the things that we did, some of the things that people who decided to press on, who decided to see it through to the end. So we can stand here in this building without fearing for our lives. This is the African American Celebration of Achievement. These are just some books that I brought that I was interested in, and I'm going to post these downstairs. So these are just strips of information that go. And this is the Civil Rights Timeline from 1954 to 2003. These are some athletes and some other leaders. What I'm saying, and I want to take a different, I didn't want to just preach this morning. I just wanted to share with you how important it is that we tell our stories. It was hard for me to read one of my friends when she said that she went in the store, this person was in their 20s, and they had no idea who the Tuskegee Airmen, didn't even know there was a Tuskegee Institute. When I was talking to Mr. Wilson after we watched the Super Bowl, and he was saying, first thing he said was, you know, they called us an experiment. An experiment. Was the underwriting thought that they really wanted them to fail. As black people, African Americans, colored Negroes, whatever you want to call it, for some of the other word, they ran a lot of experiments on us, testing our humanity, our intelligence. But we know a God, like Elijah knew a God, that tells us to stick it through, to see it through, to hang in there to the end of the better day. They sacrificed a lot for us, and you heard me talk about my mom, that's what, and I know how much she and my father sacrificed for us, and I don't take that lightly. So it grieves me when my nieces want to half go to school. Young people, y'all hear me? Yes. It grieves me when we're disrespected. I don't know if you remember this in the Bible. I'm going to turn back. You don't have to turn back. I'm going to read it to you. When Elijah went up to Bethel, this is the 23rd verse. Well, he went up from there to Bethel, and while he was on his way, some small boys came out of the city and jeered at him, saying, "Go away, bald head." So kids were disrespectful then, and instead it goes on to say that he went on and cursed them, and a lot of them died. I won't read that, but we have to teach our children differently. Crime is on the rise against us. That's right. We're doing it to ourselves. Our children are the ones that are dropping out of school, and we're the ones that need to stay in school, because you know what? We have to work twice as hard to get the average job. Amen. And we have students waiting on other black folks who don't even know what our history is. You know what? It's our fault. My nieces will tell you, when they were little, I bought them black dolls. And you know what? It hurt my heart to hear them say they thought they were ugly. Because those weren't the ones they get in school. You know there was a study done on that? And black kids thought that the white dolls were cleaner, nicer, prettier. You know why? Because we're not telling our kids every day that they're pretty, that they're intelligent. Who saw this movie? There's a scene in there where the maid tells this little white girl whose mother thinks that the little girl is pudgy, and mother doesn't think she's very attractive. And this black woman is telling her, you is what? You is and you is important. We have to tell our children that they are beautiful, they are smart, and they are important. Because you know what? If we don't tell them, nobody else is going to tell them. I see the time is going on, and I really would like if you can stay after for a few minutes. Maybe we can talk with our seniors and some of our adults who, like I said, I'm 52. I remember going into a pastry shop and them telling my mother that we can buy the cookies there, but we can't eat them here. They want your money, yeah. I remember not being able to go some places. I remember all of us had a certain week in the summer that we could go to this one pool, because otherwise we weren't allowed to swim. If you're from this area, you know there was one beach in Annapolis that you could buy the bridge that we could swim in. We could only go to that one beach. You see, the kids, the children, I don't call them kids, they go, the children of the day don't know that. You know why? Because we don't tell them. They take all this for granted, and when they take it for granted, they disrespect us, and then they disrespect themselves.
Amen. Amen.
So I want to stop here. I'm not going to do a benediction, because I want this conversation to continue if you have time. Like I said, we have some small snacks downstairs that we wasn't meant to feed you, but just, something to put in your stomach if you want to hang around. And if you all don't mind, just somebody, George, if you have time to tell them, like, just tell us. I know that my mother was the first black cashier at Westinghouse. You know, the big Westinghouse? People, young folks, younger than she and the rest of her co-workers, would come in and learn how to run the cafeteria, because that's where she worked. They had to train them to be their boss. They had to train them to work the cashier, to work the cash registers, that they couldn't work themselves. Because they didn't want black hands touching their money. The same black hands that made the food and they were putting it out in this You are beautiful. You are what? And important. We have to tell our children that. Not just in February. We were talking about the table downstairs. Carol and I were talking about taking the table down. I said, I don't want to take the table down. I want to keep adding stuff to it for as long as we can. Because we black every day. I don't know what y'all, I'm black every day. So I'm just gonna, Miss Shepherd, can you come and play something, please? We're gonna still go on the call, but I think that's important, amen?
Amen.
So somebody this week asked us to pray for them. I'm gonna diverge a little bit. When I found out about Whitney Houston, I went into shock.
Yeah.
You see, I'm like Oprah. I was rooting for her to have her come back. Because every time they forgot about all of her talents, and all they could talk about was all the places, all the times that she strayed. You see, they still don't want to give us our due. She was a talented woman. We all have, we all have. I had to struggle with y'all. And it's a shame that when one of us died, all of the talk, they had to dig through to see what we did wrong. So that's how they want folks to remember. That's how they want our children to remember us. So I'm hoping that some of you took some time to look at that funeral and share this with your children. Listen to people talk about the good things that she did. I didn't mean to talk about her today, but I'm just saying, y'all. Yeah, we did harvest subpoenas. We did sit on the bus. But you know what? All of us walk around with cell phones. Did y'all know a black man was the one who invented a cell phone? Y'all do that, right? No. They don't tell us that. A lot of the things that we do, the engines, the stoplights, the folding chair, was invented by black people, but because we couldn't put our names on things, we were so human, someone else took credit for it. We have got to let our children know that they need to see some things through. Even if it doesn't make sense, it may not look right, it may not feel right, but if God is telling you to do it, do what God tells you to do.